Hey everybody, how's it going? So today, after a hard day's work, let's go ahead and play some Splendor Duel. I love Splendor. I freaking love Splendor so much. It's like, seriously, my favorite game. And my wife, Sarah, she plays with me. And this recent addition to the Splendor series, or the Splendor universe, Splendor Duel, is just freaking awesome. Let's go ahead and take a quick look. Sarah? Oh, yes! It's so awesome! More Splendor. All of the splendor.
I actually, as a two-player game, I prefer this over regular Splendor.
Just all the splendor, just all of it. But yeah, this is a very nice condensed one that we're about to get into right now, and I'm loving it.
It's a little bit different than like regular Splendor. Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure, you can talk about it if you want.
Okay, so it's very similar to Splendor in a lot of ways. If you're familiar at all with Splendor, that you'll know that we collect these sort of poker-style chips, which have different types of gems on them, and then we use these chips to buy these cards, which have points sometimes, and they also give us more of the gems that we need. So then when you're buying future purchases, the cards that you have count towards those purchases, but they don't go away like the chips would. So it's pretty similar to like regular Splendor in that regard. But in this one, it's a little bit different. It is like sort of streamlined for 2 players only. And one of the main differences is this board right here. On a player's turn, they have a couple of optional actions that they can do, but primarily we'll be interacting with this board here and taking 1 to 3 chips from this board here. And when you take chips from the board, you're going to take 1, 2, or 3 consecutive chips in any direction, orthogonal or diagonal. So that's up, down, left, right, or on the diagonals. So for example, I could take like 1, 2, 3 chips, or like 1, 2, 3 chips. And if ever a player takes 2 pearls or 3 of the same kind. So if I took these 3 emeralds right here, or if I took these 3 right here and got these 2 pearls here, then your opponent gets a scroll. There's only 3 scrolls in the game, and they'll take a scroll from the supply, or if there's no scrolls left in the supply, they'll steal one of yours. And the scrolls let you perform those optional actions that I was talking about earlier, which is to take like a single chip from the board, or that's it. I think, right?
Chips,
yeah, you take like just a single chip off the board. You can also, as an optional action before your regular action of taking chips, is you can refill the board. So what happens is over the course of the game, we're going to be paying for these cards over here with the required chips, and more of these chips are going to be coming off the board. So as an optional action at the beginning of your turn, you can take all the chips that are in the bag and you can refill the board, sort of. But if you do that, then your opponent gets a scroll. And that's a really interesting part of this game, I think, because you can see which chips are where, so you kind of know like what's in the bag. And if you really need something that you're not able to get, you can sort of force a refill on the board, and yeah, you're giving your opponent a scroll which they could use in a future turn, but you're also pushing those gems from the bag back out onto the board, and you know, hopefully they'll fall on the board in a particular way in which is like useful to you. When you are refilling the board, there's a particular way you have to do it. So underneath all these chips there are arrows, and they kind of show you like the direction in which the board has to be refilled. But on your turn, if you claim a card, some of the cards have special abilities and they trigger like immediately when you claim them. So you can perform extra actions with the cards that you claim as well. And then eventually the game will be over and one player will win. And the way that works is either if a player just has 20 points from their cards, so like this here is worth 2 points. If any player accumulates 20 points, they win. Another way to do it is there are some cards with crowns on them, like this one has 2 crowns or this one has 1 crown. If a player accumulates 10 of those crowns, then they win the game. Or if a player gets 10 points in one color. So like if I had 10 points that were all from sapphires, then that would be a way to win. There's a few other things here and there, but that's the general shakeout of Splendor Duel.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for giving us the little shakedown for Splendor Duel. I love Splendor, and I love the way they've rolled out Splendor. We've had Splendor, base Splendor for a while, and then I think like a couple years later.
It was several years.
Yeah, it was a while, and then they added an expansion to where it was like 3 expansions in one, but it was like 4.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was just it was quite a bit.
It was kind of expensive. The expansion was kind of expensive. It was almost as much as the base game, but it did have 4 different modules, and you could sort of like mix and match those if you want to. So quite a lot of value in the box, but it was an expensive expansion, especially at the time. In my opinion, we had not seen in the hobby, we hadn't seen a lot of expansions that were like almost as much money or as much money as the base games. Now I feel like it's a little bit more commonplace, but that to my mind was one of the first expansions that was like almost as much as the base game. But it was a meaty expansion, and I don't even know that we've played through all of the different.
No, we've played. I think there's only 3. I think
sure
we've
there's
gone through
4.
them.
I think there's 4.
I want to say there's 3, but
I don't know.
I don't know. I really love Splendor, and like I said, it was years until they got the expansion, and it feels like nowadays you get the base game, and then 2 days later it's like, and by the way, there's an expansion. I'm like, well, how do you have an expansion so close to the release of your base game? That's just me. And then sometimes duels come out like shortly after, or 2-player versions of the game, but this isn't like some of them where I feel like they just dissected the 2-player part of it and kind of like separated it from the 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, wherever the previous game was in their normal set. But we're going to jump into it because I love Splendor, and Sarah plays Splendor with me, and it's awesome. But she likes this one, if I'm not wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I do like Splendor as a 3 or 4 player game. It's not like my all-time favorite game, but I like it well enough. I think it's a solid game. I think that this is a better experience if you only have 2 players, though.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into it, and we'll see you guys at the end of it. All right. Toodles! Lost again. I love this game a lot, Splendor Duel, but this is like, I have not won yet. It's just...
we've only played twice.
We've only played twice, but still, new release, and only played twice and lost twice. Haven't even like tied it up with 1-1. But I just love this game a lot. I love the Splendor universe a lot, and I have I don't even know if I'm super biased on this, but I think Splendor Duel is a fabulous 2-player. Trying not to be as biased as possible, but I really like how everything works and flows together within this game. Getting the tokens, spending the tokens, the privileged scrolls, or the scrolls, however you want to say it, are pretty good. But yeah, let's go to an unbiased party. Sarah, what do you think of this?
I like it. It's a very good 2-player game. Like I said at the beginning, I would rather play this than a 2-player version of Splendor. That being said, even though it is like a Splendor game, it's pretty different from Splendor. It's got the same sort of like skeletal structure, but it is pretty different. And I like a lot of the strategies that are kind of here that maybe aren't really in the regular one, or that are different maybe from the regular one. I like it a lot. I think that there's a lot of fun stuff here. I think that it's highly replayable because of the way the chips like fall out on the board. It's going to be like very different every time, the way that the cards come out every time. And not just for the point values and the gems that are represented on the cards, but also like the extra abilities that you get to perform when you claim those cards. So I think having like the 3 different win conditions where you can win with like just straight up victory points, or you can win with the crowns, or you can win with like victory points in just one particular color. I think that it offers a lot of ways to sort of explore the game. This time I won with points, which and last time we played I won with
crowns.
No, I won with 10 points,
10 points
or more in one color. Yeah. I think a crown victory would be pretty challenging because you only need 10 crowns to win, but it's fairly difficult to get crowns. I got 3 in this game, and there are more out there. In fact, there's a couple of cards with double crowns on them right now, but they're higher, they're like more expensive. And the cards with the crowns also typically don't really have like a lot of other bonuses. So if you get a card with a crown, that's kind of sometimes like the only thing that's really on it other than the gem. So the crown victory seems pretty difficult, but as sort of like an incentive to go after the crowns, on your 3rd and 6th crown, you get to like recruit a noble, and they have special abilities and are worth extra points and stuff like that too. So I went after 3 crowns, which was just enough to recruit a noble, and I got the noble with the most points available because it's first come, first serve on the nobles. So I used the 3 crowns that I'd accumulated to get 3 points from my noble, but then I kind of moved away from the crown strategy because I thought I'm not going to be able to get 10 crowns fast enough to win the game, but getting 3 crowns got me 3 points because it let me get the noble that was worth 3 points. So there's a lot of different ways I think the game could go, and you have a lot of sort of flexibility in what you might pursue as far as like which end game trigger you're aiming for. And I feel like you can kind of pivot your strategy a little bit too if like in the middle of the game you're like, this isn't quite working. If your opponent isn't just crushing it, you probably have time to like pivot your strategy a little bit too. So I think it's fun.
So there's your unbiased view. But yeah, I really like the abilities that you get within the game. And like the getting a scroll, getting an extra turn, my cat rolling dice off of our
He's
our
never
table.
done that before. Like never. We have a few little dice around the game room, and I have put them on like some of the lower shelves because he's never taken anything off of our shelves in here before. And in the last couple weeks, he's just started to like come in here and like take them and play with them, which is awesome. I love that. It's just kind of unexpected.
I think he's just a D&D boss rolling for initiative. He's like, all right, peasants, come on, bring it. But yeah, this is I think a great 2-player, and if you just want to dabble in the Splendor universe, I think this is more than enough. I would always recommend to get all the splendor and all its glory, but I think this is definitely a great taste, especially if you don't always get the higher player counts with like getting a lot of people. I think this is definitely a game where you can get the taste of Splendor and also get, I think, a better 2-player experience from the Splendor universe. But I would just still recommend get all the Splendor and experience it, play with all the people. But yeah, so
the quality is pretty good on this version too. Like the poker chips they're not super, super heavy, but they're not super light either. The cards are smaller, but there's no real need for them to be any bigger than they are. So that's like not a problem. And they're made out of like nice cardstock. The bag could be upgraded just a little bit, but I mean, even that's fine.
that was my only complaint was the bag.
Yeah, otherwise the components are pretty nice. The only thing, and this is a little bit nitpicky on my part, but the only thing that I didn't love was that I felt like this board right here could have very easily been incorporated into here somehow, because it is only a reminder of the 3 different win conditions. So like they could have just printed a little bit, they could have made this just a little bit bigger and like printed them here, and this wouldn't have even been necessary. But honestly, like that's a little bit of a nitpicky thing. It's perfectly fine the way that it is. I just thought it would have been more efficient to just include it on the board. directly. But I mean, other than that, the little scrolls, they're pretty nice. They're like some kind of plastic, and they're pretty nice. And that was something that I felt like they didn't need to make it so nice, but they did. So that was cool. Our copy also came with 4 alternate art promos for the nobles, which was cool. So you can choose like which ones you want to use, as long as you're not using a duplicate of like there's 2 3-point cards, so you can't use both of those in the same game. But it was nice that they provided like alt art promos for the nobles, and like we said, the production is pretty good. So.
Cool. Cool. So get all the Splendor. But if you want a 2-player version of the Splendor experience, then probably just get Splendor Duel. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video and got a little bit out of this little Splendor experience, and maybe you could want to get this game for yourself, or you want to pass on it because it's not for you. Totally understand. Make me tear a little bit sad, but okay. That's it. Go play games. See y'all later. Toodles!